Welcome to another edition of Elemental Builds. This is One-Eyed Cat, and I'm going over some builds that I use during some challenge playthroughs that I do. This one happens to be Psychic Element. I've done other videos on the other ones, so I'm going to show you how to build a Psychic character, a Psychic focusing spellcaster mainly. I'd like to point something out here, there are weapons like this, but I wanted to point out something. The Githyanki, when it comes to Githyanki, there are so many, and I don't have necessarily a lot of them equipped right now, but there are so many items in the game that are key to Githyanki. Githyanki, for example, in this one, already get a +1 bonus to Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws just by having that on. So there's a lot of really nice stuff in here. Like when a Githyanki casts Fly, their next melee attack deals an extra Psychic, so they could literally use these boots to fly over to someone and hit them. Githyanki Great Sword, when wielded by a Githyanki, you get the point. There's a huge trend going on here. Basically, a lot of the weapons in the game that are for the Githyanki are also psychic damage. I found that sort of surprising because I would think they're like fire or something else, like really dramatic, but hey, this is actually pretty nifty. Which means that Lae'zel sort of fills a unique role in the game as one of the only ones that like really will benefit from these mods and these weapons. But anyway, so in fact, even the Soulbreaker Greatsword damage is psychic. But anyway, so here's how I would build this. I thought when I first did this that bards would be the ones that have the advantage when it comes to psychic spells, and I was totally wrong. I was surprised. It's actually warlocks, believe it or not. I'm going to choose Hexblade, but basically here's how I'm going to do this. I would assume that I would start out the game this way. If I start out as a bard, because it's going to be a multi-class, but if I start out as a bard, I'm not going to get medium armor until level 3. I want to not be as squishy a character when it comes to surviving the first part of the game. So I'd actually prefer Hexblade Warlock first. So yeah, I'm going to go through that. But basically what we're going to do is 9 levels of Warlock and 3 of Swords Bard. Just to get some smitey stuff. Because, it's Lae'zel. She likes to hit things. Booming Blade is thunder damage. I know it's purple, but it's thunder damage technically. So as I do this, though, I want you to know I'm going to choose some options that are not the best necessarily because I'm just trying to get past some things that aren't really necessary or like super important for the build so that I could focus mainly on the things that are important. Let's see. So Wrathful Smite is going to be great. Hexblade's Curse is great. Hexed Weapon, you cannot drop or throw the weapon. That's actually not necessarily very helpful unless you're wielding a weapon that you don't want to, that you don't care about throwing. I say that because, like, for Lae'zel, using a strength-based build, using Nirulna, the spear, I think it's a spear? No, it's a, what are those things? It's a pitchfork. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Trident. Nirulna is great for Lae'zel, especially if she's got the Ring of Flinging, and she's an Eldritch Knight, or at least has that, because, well, in this case, you don't need it with the Nirulna, so Warlock, or possibly any other class. Nirulna returns to your hand, it's great, but we're not going to go that direction, so here's how I would do this. I'm not going to pick Armor of Agathis only because it's cold damage, and like I said, I'm supposed to like focus on and try to do only psychic damage other than basic damage. So I'm going to choose Shield because that's always helpful, and Wrathful Smite because that's always going to be helpful to be able to like hit people with psychic. So here's how I'm going to do my stuff. I'm going to assume there are dexterity-based weapons. I know there are, but I'm going to assume that we're going to go with strength for Lae'zel because, that seems to fit her personality as a character. Even though it doesn't really matter, you can do whatever the heck you want. There's only, now I'm doing Constitution 14 because there is literally only one psychic spell that I'm aware of that requires concentration, and that is Phantasmal Force, which is a really good spell. But anyway, so we're not going to go that route. We're not going to take any face skills as a warlock. What we're going to do is we're going to choose... Yeah, that's funny how all the frickin' I took a drop in intelligence and that's what I get. But anyway, I'm just going to choose these because I'm trying to get past this. With my builds, usually I have Will in the party so he can handle like Arcana checks and stuff. Alright, so now I'm going to do something that's sort of weird for some of y'all. I'm going to immediately go over to Bard, and I'm going to try to pick up all the levels in Bard, well, 3 levels in Bard, so I can become a Swords Bard, specifically because that gives me basically like sort of like the closest thing to Smites without being a Paladin. You get the flourishes, so I'm going to choose Dissonant Whispers, which does Psychic. Dissonant Whispers is actually good. You can actually upscale that. I've actually defeated the Spider Matriarch with Dissonant Whispers as this 4-bard party, so it's actually ironic, but it's actually like useful in a way. I'm going to choose some other options just to get it over with, because like I said, I'm not going to like usually build my stuff this way. I'm just trying to skip past stuff. I'm going to give her a drum just because I feel like it, and her skill ability as a bard. I'm going to say acrobatics probably best for her because, or well, no, do perception. Alright. The first 3 levels of bard give you some good psychic. So we're going to skip past this. Yay, we get Psionic's Jump. We're only going to take 3 levels of Bard, because what we're going to do is we're going to go with College of Swords. Githyanki have like martial training, so we don't need to do anything when it comes to like needing weapons or stuff, so College of Swords will work. We don't need College of Valor. Phantasmal Force, I'm definitely taking that, because that's a psychic spell. Like I said, it's the only concentration one, but it basically does 1d6 psychic every turn, and if I remember correctly, if you upcast it, you get more weapon d6s and stuff. I'm going to choose 2 weapon fighting, even though I may not need it, but it's just useful to have in case I decide to go with those 2 finesse weapons. In this case, so the things she does, I'm going to assume that she's going to want another point in perception and then in athletics, because she's more of like a hands-on, hit you with things type of person, character, whatever it is, right? And that's all our levels of Bard. Now we're going to go over to Warlock, because now we're more survivable as a Bard because we have those flourishes. Those are going to help us like with defensive and like damage and stuff. So now we're over here at Warlock. The difficulty is you really have to read the description on things to make sure you get the right stuff when it comes to this game. So I'm going to take Hex. But there's things on here that you'll look at and you're like, you know, what does this do? What does that do? But I'm looking specifically for anything that says something about Psychic. In this case, I don't see it. I'm going to do Agonizing and Repelling Blast because Eldritch Knight is not something we are not allowed to use because it's Force. When I do elemental builds, Force is not considered an element. It's just considered, you know, hitting people and stuff. Whatever. It is technically one. Now here's an interesting part. Shadow Blade. This sucker does like 2 to 16 psychic damage already. It is very helpful, and in fact you might want to get a few levels of Warlock first just to get access to this, because if you don't have good weapons, this is actually fantastic. It's still a really good weapon all in all. So let's see, Chain, Blade, Tome. I'm going to take Tome just because I want Vicious Mockery all over again, even though I think I already have it. But you can do whatever you want at this point. It's not really that big a deal. Now I'm going to finish out with Booming Blade. Does psychic damage, so I'm taking that. I'm going to eventually take Eldritch Blast. Remember, Shatter is actually thunder and not psychic. At this point in the game, based on what I'm doing, I might want to do psychic damage. I can't really do that, but I can do Cloud of Daggers. That sounds like something Lae'zel would like, because you know it's things that are floating around. All right, now Elemental Adept. There are a lot of builds I have that have these elements. The Elemental Adept is great, especially if you are one class, but I don't have that. I'm going to get 2 opportunities to do something that boosts my stuff. I mean, it could be funny to do like some sort of like magic initiate, but no. I'm going to boost my charisma because that's going to help me make sure that like my spells land and that they do a lot of damage. Alright, so spells. Looking through the spell list again. I love Hunger of Hadar, but it doesn't follow what we're doing right now, so I'm not doing that. For this one, I'm actually going to do Misty Step. I know that I have Counterspell there, but I'm going to do Misty Step. Being that you're a Warlock, you're sort of like a half caster, or 3/4, or whatever. I'd rather have like my other main spellcasters handle Counterspell, but I'm not saying you can't do it. So Slow is good, but I'm not going to do that. Armor of Shadows, Beast, Speech, Beguiling Influence. I don't see anything that's like directly related to Psychic. Bestow Curse is actually a good spell though. See, this would be good if I was actually like, the face character, Beguiling Influence, that'd be great, but I'm not. I think I'm going to do Sign of Ill Omen to do Bestow Curse. Bestowing Curse on things like the Grimforge Guardian, in terms of giving them disadvantage on their attack rolls, can actually save your life. Let's see. So now I don't see anything directly like overtly related to Psychic at all. So in this case, I'm gonna already well, Elemental Weapon doesn't have Psychic ones, and it doesn't really matter because by this level I have access to the Psychic weapons that I lifted off of the corpses of those that were in the Githyanki Kretch. So I'm actually gonna do, I think I'll actually do Counterspell. Well, yeah, I think I will. I mean, Blur would be tempting, but whatever. Blur would actually be pretty good for martial class, notwithstanding, but I'm going to do something else. Phantasmal Killer. Definitely going to take that. Look at how much damage it does. It's a concentration spell. It's sort of like a boosted version of Phantasmal Force. Phantasmal Killer will do 4d10 damage every turn, and I think if I remember correctly, upcasting it will do even more damage, so it's ridiculous. Now this one, Ray of Sickness, Chromatic Orb, and Silence. I don't need that, but that actually is a very good option. Dreadful Word will give you Confusion, Sculptor of Flesh, Polymorph, Mire of the Mind. Honestly, like, because it gives you 3 spells, I'd rather have Book of Ancient Secrets, even if it's not really like the spells that I absolutely need. And by the way, Chromatic Orb does not do Psychic. It would be cool if it did, but it doesn't. You're going to start seeing a trend with this one. There's not really a lot of spells that are Psychic. So you're mainly going to be more of like a martial class. Staggering Smite. Definitely recommend this. You can upcast it, if I remember correctly. Very nice. Very nice spell. Then we're going to go ahead, because now basically we're like almost like a paladin. Like, we're getting close, but we're like only halfway there. Because we have that, we have Staggering Smite. So we're actually getting a few smites out of this, even though like it really won't matter a ton. Our last feat should go into ability score improvements, because we're already at level 11. And then level 12, this is our last level. I don't see anything in here that is directly related to Psychic. So at this point you can flavor Lae'zel's combat stuff however you want. I'm so tempted to do Hold Monster. I don't see necessarily that it's like an important thing. You could argue grant flight, because then you could like fly over to enemies and beat the crap out of them. I'm gonna go with Dimension Door. It's always good to have. And now, finally, I need like Otherworldly Leap. By the way, don't get this. You already get that as part of like the Githyanki race. Whispers of the Grave, Speak with Dead. That would be helpful. That would be helpful if we didn't pass the checks on the Necromancy of Thay book, but it's not really something we absolutely have to have. Conjure Elemental would be great, but we're sticking with Psychic spells, so I'm not going to do that. I know it sucks, but I mean, Minions of Chaos would be great. I'm just going to say it, but whatever. So I'm going to say maybe Confusion, Dreadful Word would be the one I would choose, but whatever. So yeah, so now we have a fully Psychic Warrior. Man, you got a lot of spells in here too. I go into the inventory to do almost everything, so I'm just going to do that. But like, look at all the cool spells we got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8. 8 spells of Psychic is really not bad at all. It really is not. Now, I do realize that there are other Warlock classes. I'm not going to say you can't use those, or sorry, I should say Warlock subclasses. I've not explored them all, so there might be a way to like get maybe one more Psychic spell out of something. But I'm going to point out that all the Psychic spells that belong to the Warlock, they don't necessarily all fit into the same subclass. So it's just going to depend on what you want to do. But this is really good, because I get those smites, and if that doesn't work, like I can always use like my other cool flourishes, like Slashing Flourish Melee, you know, to get people to hit more than one enemy. Like mobile flourishes. This is going to make me really good at hitting things, so it's going to be a really good martial class. It's not going to be the best, it's not going to be a paladin, but it's going to be really darn good. It's hard to beat. It really is. So this is my build for Psychic stuff. I think I pointed out the other weapons that are in there, but I can look in here real briefly and see. Let me see if I can find some of the other spells here. So there are other things that you can find in Act 3. There are the slinging shoes, but you have to throw the shoes, so that's sort of pointless. The Silver Sword of the Astral Plane is a great one. I don't have that yet. I'm not that far in Act 3. There's a Soulbreaker Greatsword, and honestly, like, you'd have to basically, I think one of the options also is you can kill Voss and get his Silver Sword. That's also an option, but why would we do that? I mean, unless we're Dark Urge. So there's Psionic Ward Armor. I think I have that in here somewhere. Don't I? Do I have Psychic Ward? I don't think I do. I'm going to stop looking. But anyway, actually there it is, yeah. Psionic Ward, it's not technically psychic damage, but it gives you resistance to psychic damage if it detects your Gith. It's already keyed to Githyanki, like I said, so this will actually be good. This is good in my opinion. And you also get healing point saves. But anyway, there's other things like I had the Surgeon's Subjugation Amulet on there, but I don't care at this point. I wasn't setting things up perfectly necessarily. There are other things in here that I'm going to go over briefly that I don't have in this game, in this specific playthrough. Let's see. I would recommend, there's also, well, I have that one, the Justicier's Scimitar. This one has like a, what is it called? I can't even remember. I'm just going to equip it real quick to show you. It's got a Shadow-Soaked Blow, which deals Psychic, so you can deal Psychic with that. But like this sword already gives you Psychic already, just because you're Githyanki. So just because you're breathing. Circlet of Psionic Revenge I've already been over. But like there's really not a lot of armor options. The only other armor option that is a medium armor in this game is specifically, let me see if I can find the name. I didn't put it in my notes, but basically it does exist. It's just you have to kill the Githyanki patrol in Act 1 as soon as the dragon flies away, and that's incredibly difficult. Like, it is a ridiculously difficult fight, especially at higher difficulty levels. So I don't really recommend that one. It's possible, but whatever. But yeah, so you can do pretty good in here. Just get all the Githyanki stuff, and there you go. I know there's more to it than that, but there's a lot in here that does help. Also, the Shadow Blade ring, technically you can use that to cast Shadow Blade even earlier. It depends on when you get it. I think you can get it in Act 2, so you might actually beat this. You might actually beat out getting the spell and get this first, but it's good. I might just cast it just to show you. Boom. Yeah. So 2d8 plus 3 psychic damage is what it does. Not like physical damage, but like psychic, which is nuts. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip all this. But hey, thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. This is One-Eyed Cat signing out. If you have comments, questions, ideas, recommendations, anything like that, let me know. I'll gladly check it out and see what I think. Y'all have a great one. Bye.